picture of unity has been a long time developing. The development is still in process. This picture of unity is just one more step in that process. Man, who by his very nature can't exist alone, is still trying to solve the problem of living with other men. We haven't succeeded, but at least we're still trying. We have learned how it can't be done. We can't achieve unity by force. Force only results in disunity and destruction. Force will never unite men, but there are ideas and ideals that can. This is the story of one idea, the story of men united and not alone. This is the story of the credit union. What is this idea, this common bond that can unite men? What is a credit union? Well, take these men. They live and work in Gary, Indiana. They had a problem, the problem of providing for themselves a constant source of low-cost credit. They formed an organization called a credit union, an organization whose purpose is to promote thrift, whose members agree to save their money together and to make loans to each other at low interest. These people live and work in Lima, Peru. They also had a problem of freeing themselves from overburdening debts. They joined a credit union, a group bound together by the common desire to help one another achieve a greater measure of financial security. And in the West Indies, the problem is the same, the problem of low-cost credit. And the answer is the same, a credit union, democratically owned and controlled by its members. And the same is true for these fishermen of Nova Scotia. They realized they could help themselves by helping others. They formed a credit union. This common bond of self-help and mutual cooperation is what joins the millions of people of the world who are active credit union members. This is the strength of the credit union idea. But it wasn't always this way. Certainly not in North America, in the first self-confident, innocent years of this century. The world was fresh, the present delightful, the future bright. Henry Ford was putting everybody on wheels. The Wright brothers were giving the world wings. Expanding railroads were changing the face of Canada. Marconi's wireless, the face of the world. Jack Johnson held the heavyweight championship. Edward VII was King of England. Lillian Russell, the queen of glamour. And everybody was humming Gus Edwards' latest hit. Yes, some people were going as far as they liked in their merry Oldsmobiles. But not the millions of men and women who were barely making a living. It was a bright, free world for some, but not for the hundreds of thousands who worked for less than 17 cents an hour in the packing houses and mines. It was an innocent age, But it still had its jobless, its slum dwellers, its millions hounded by loan sharks. Being forced to borrow money at interest rates ranging from 100 to 1,000%. Men were faced then, as they always have been faced, with the problem of financial insecurity. There were a few men who saw this problem and started to do something about it. They started to draw a picture of unity. The first outlines of that picture had begun a half-century earlier in Germany. Friedrich Raiffeisen, the mayor of a small village, was evolving the credit union idea as an answer to the usury that had kept his people in misery. Raiffeisen taught his people to save together and to make loans to each other at low interest. Sick and half blind, he continued to work for his people, and he lived to see 423 credit unions in Germany. 423 examples of Friedrich Raiffeisen's belief in the unity of man. The credit union idea flowed throughout Germany and Italy, and then leaped across the Atlantic to Canada, where a legislative reporter, Alphonse Desjardins, had seen his fellow Canadians exploited by money lenders. He studied the European credit unions for 15 years. And in 1900 at Lévis, Quebec, he began the first credit union in North America. In 1909, Manchester, New Hampshire, he began the first credit union in the United States. Like Raiffeisen, Desjardins saw the credit union as an organization of men, not dollars. As he said, the people's welfare can best be secured by institutions organized by the people themselves. At the same time, another man was helping to build this picture of unity, a Boston merchant named Edward A. Filene. Deeply impressed by cooperative credit societies he had seen on a visit to India, Filene returned home convinced that the credit union idea should be fostered throughout North America. He saw it as a way for people to help themselves through mutual cooperation, and he summed it up with these words: "We human beings are one, and we can truly express ourselves only as we express our unity." In 1908, Filene and Pierre Jay, the Massachusetts banking commissioner, invited Desjardins to Boston to help draw up a bill allowing credit unions to organize in Massachusetts. Desjardins came, and in 1909, due largely to the efforts of these three men, the bill was passed. We human beings are one, and we can truly express ourselves only as we express our unity. The credit union idea was becoming one expression of man's unity. In 1912, the President of the United States, William Howard Taft, had an investigation made of the credit union system in Europe. The findings were so favorable that he wrote to the state governors to suggest credit union legislation. He wrote, "The organization and management of credit unions are wonderfully simple. Their success is practically inevitable." Like these men, President Taft foresaw the power of the credit union idea as a way to join millions of people of the world in a picture of unity, while the world itself was on its way to complete disunity. August 1914, the Imperial German Army marched through Brussels. The whole of Europe rang hollow with the sound of armies on the march. Canadians first, then Americans sailed over there to get the job done. The job was done. The world was made safe for a time. It was over there. Over for 4 million young men. Force had not united them. Death had. Edward Filene was a leader in the struggle for peace. He invented the simultaneous translator, which was used in the League of Nations, and is in use today in the United Nations. He worked unceasingly in the efforts of world peace, for, as he said, all human life has now become one family, and the time has arrived to give passionate expression of our unity. Filene knew of one way that people could express their unity: the credit union movement. So people must learn about the credit union idea. Word must be spread. Pilot credit unions organized. Uniform practices started. In 1921, he set up the Credit Union National Extension Bureau to bring the credit union idea to the people. And the man he chose to head this organization was the most energetic, dedicated man he could have found, a Massachusetts attorney, Roy F. Bergengren. And Bergengren could not have had a more willing assistant than Agnes Gartland. Both saw the strength of the credit union idea. But how do you go about getting results? As Bergengren was to write later, I well recall the first day. Into an empty office we moved a desk, an empty file, a chair, and an old typewriter. I then sat at the desk and wondered how one went about the national development of cooperative credit. Bergengren and later the equally dedicated Tom Doig did it. They did it by traveling the length and breadth of the country. By living out of suitcases and making trains their home. By talking to farmers, to teachers, to postal clerks, to factory workers, teaching and organizing. No pause, no rest, meetings, speeches. Another few dreary hours and day coaches. Then another city, another meeting to organize a credit union. They did it by repeated trips to states where credit union laws were pending. They did it by setting up a supply department to provide credit unions with uniform supplies and forms at low cost. A department that was the forerunner of CUNA's Supply Cooperative. They brought the idea to the people. And the people responded and gave the idea the life and strength that drove it on, while the country went back to normalcy. In the age of flibbers, flappers, and flagpole sitters, the credit union idea gathered momentum. It was what the people needed. There was an oil boom in Alberta and West Texas. There was the Charleston and the Black Bottom. But there were still over 60% of the people who earned less than $2,000 a year. We had the King of Swat and the Prince of Wales. But we also had the loan sharks charging over 500% interest. In the age of Gertrude Ederle and Lucky Lindy, Bergengren and Doig struck the spark. From the people came the fire of cooperation. Credit unions spread across the continent. New laws were passed, old laws amended. Leagues formed to carry on the educational and legislative work. The credit union offered men the ideals of self-help and mutual cooperation, while the stock market was offering everyone a free ride on the merry-go-round. All you had to do was play the market right and grab the brass ring. In the morning, in the evening, we had fun. When the merry-go-round broke down, nearly 14 million people in North America were jobless. 14 million people that filled the bread lines, the relief camps, and the slums. 14 million that were without hope.
So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance.
The credit union movement had been advancing. In 1932, when all savings institutions in the United States closed their doors for the famous bank holiday, every single credit union reopened at its conclusion. Only 290 credit unions in 1921, over 2,000 throughout North America in 1934. 39 states, the District of Columbia, and most of the Canadian provinces had credit union laws. In that year, 1934, the Federal Credit Union Act, introduced by Senator Morris Shepherd of Texas, got the overwhelming approval of the United States Congress. The bill made it possible to charter a credit union in any state or territory of the United States. We can truly express ourselves only as we express our unity. August 1934, Estes Park, Colorado. Credit union leaders from all parts of the United States gathered to form a non-profit, self-supporting, working organization of credit union leagues of the United States, the Credit Union National Association, CUNA. Canada was to join the association in 1940, the Western Hemisphere in 1946, and finally the whole world in 1958. From its main office, the old Raiffeisen House in Madison, Wisconsin, CUNA began to prove its importance to the individual members by organizing new credit unions, by obtaining the best possible credit union laws, by constantly improving the methods of credit union operations, and by guiding the efforts of every credit union against usury in the field of personal finance. CUNA Supply was established to provide credit unions with needed printed forms, educational literature, and supplies. CUNA Mutual Insurance Society was organized to fill a tremendous need to protect credit unions, their members and families from loss when a borrower died. Since 1935, CUNA Mutual has paid out millions of dollars through loan protection and life savings, money that has lifted the burden of debt from thousands of families. The credit union idea was proving its strength in the years of depression, in the time of the thirsty 30s. As Bergengren put it, here was a plan geared to the people and capable of lifting them to new economic levels. Here was a school which could train vast numbers of people in the democratic control and management of their own money. Here was a way to unite people who differed on every subject under the sun. The people saw the credit unions existed not for profit, not for charity, but for self-help and service to their fellow men. 290 credit unions in 1921. More than 11,000 credit unions with 3 million members 20 years later. The people of the credit union movement were expressing their unity. They were building, while others were destroying.
La dichiarazione di guerra è stata consegnata agli ambasciatori.
Hitler held the continent. A world was torn apart. The credit union enlisted for democracy. $400 million in war bonds were sold to members. The credit union knew the meaning of unity. The world began to learn its meaning on the island of Tinian in the Marshalls, and with a plane called the Enola Gay. The plane's destination, Hiroshima. Its purpose, to drop the first atomic bomb. My God, was the only entry in the co-pilot's diary. The world knew it had to find some kind of unity. Now the peoples of the world had a common problem, their own future existence. And the solution was not to be found in that mushroom-like cloud over Hiroshima. Perhaps a small part of the solution can be found here. Here in a meeting of men and women representing millions of credit union members. Since that day in Boston, 1909, when Desjardins and Filene first gave it the needed push, the credit union idea has continued to grow. With the establishment of the CUNA World Extension Department, this idea has spread to over 50 countries, where it is helping people to raise their standard of living. A high point in this never-ending growth came in 1950, when the President of the United States laid the cornerstone of Filene House, the international headquarters of the credit union movement.
This building will serve credit unions in the United States and Canada and other areas of the Western Hemisphere. It will be a truly international headquarters, and as such, it symbolizes the international character of cooperative activity. In whatever country they may be found, these activities speak a common language and have a common goal. Their common language may be found in the principles of self-help, mutual assistance, and democratic control. Their common goal is to solve by joint action problems which cannot be solved by acting alone.
In 1954, at Hamilton, Ontario, the Canadian offices for the credit union movement were completed. This bilingual name, CUNA House, Maison CUNA, symbolizes the credit union ideal. The ideal that joins these Nova Scotia fishermen to these people of the Fiji Islands and to these workers in an American steel plant. These men know the value of helping others to help themselves. These people know that man cannot stand alone. These men realize that we human beings are one, and we can truly express ourselves only as we express our unity. That is the heart of the credit union ideal, to cross the boundaries of language, race, religion, to unite all men of goodwill in a common effort to achieve a better way of life by mutual cooperation and voluntary service, by giving a part of themselves to one another, by becoming part of the credit union picture of unity.